My younger self, I knew that I will be a scientist probably by age of 2 or 3. I already was driving everybody crazy with my questions. 3 days later, Nixon by himself called him and said, please come to Washington to be sworn in. And he answered to him, thank you, President, but my answer is no. And then he said yes to me. So saying no to Nixon and yes to me was a very great thing. He was a terrific mentor. You could not ask for a better mentor. If anybody needs a good mentor to be successful in life, mentors make all the difference in the world. After doing research on secondary isotope effects for many years, I believe that science education is a human right that belongs to all. Remember, science is a subject that can prolong life, but science is a subject that can cut life very short. Therefore, I tell scientists they have the obligation to work towards peace in the world, because we wouldn't have the weapon of mass destruction without the scientists. So first, science doesn't see religion, doesn't see border, doesn't see culture, doesn't see language. Therefore, I think science diplomacy should succeed where other diplomacies have failed, because the people speak the same language.
Every leader has a story to tell, and the Safe Leader podcast uncovers the diversity story behind leading figures championing change to make our world a better place. Join me, your host, Mark McBride-Wright, as we hear from business leaders, academics, entrepreneurs, and agents of change as they share their journeys of innovation, resilience, and transformation. Together, we explore how they embrace the principles of safe leadership, sharing, acting, feeling, and empowering to create safer, more inclusive environments for everyone. Hello, welcome to the next episode of the Safe Leader podcast. I'm your host, Mark McBride-Wright, and today I'm joined by Dr Zafra Lerman, who is a chemist, educator, and globally recognized leader in science diplomacy, known for using science as a powerful tool for peace and human rights. With a distinguished research career spanning institutions such as Cornell, Northwestern, and ETH Zurich, she has combined scientific excellence with a lifelong commitment to advancing freedom, education, and international collaboration. As president of the Malta Conferences Foundation, Zafra has brought together scientists from across the Middle East, including countries in conflict, to collaborate on shared challenges such as water, energy, health, and education. Her work has created one of the only platforms where individuals from these nations can meet face-to-face, build trust, and work towards peace through science. Beyond diplomacy, Zafra has pioneered innovative approaches to education, integrating science with art, music, and performance to engage students, particularly young women and underrepresented groups in scientific thinking. Her work has earned over 40 international awards, including recognition from US presidents, global scientific bodies, and human rights organizations. At the heart of everything she does is a belief that science is not just a discipline, but a universal language capable of connecting people, transforming lives, and building a more peaceful world. And she's also recently released her book, Human Rights and Peace, A Personal Odyssey. Zafra, welcome.
Thank you very much.
What a fantastic biography. I just love it.
I wanted to ask you for a copy so I can read it.
Absolutely. I'll send that to you. Not a problem.
Okay, thank you very much.
You have a career, because, you know, as you start growing a podcast, you end up skipping the planning, and, you know, we've only spoken for about 10 minutes prior to press and record on this system. You know, I'm keeping it really lean these days with a Safe Leader because I like it being organic, and just the conversation that we have is the conversation. It's not planned, it's not structured, it's and so, you know, you've got about lives worth of experience, 3 lifetimes worth of experience compressed into your own. It's absolutely fascinating, especially given the context of, this recording is mid-April 2026. There's a conflict going on in the Middle East. And so at the heart of what we need is hope, hope that peace will find a pathway through for the good of everyone. So let's unpack that. Let's find out about your career, your history. You started off with chemistry. What first drew you to STEM and chemistry? And tell us about your younger self.
My younger self, I knew that I will be a scientist probably by age of 2 or 3, because
Really? Wow.
I already was driving everybody crazy with my questions. I
Okay.
remember that by age of 2, I had neighbors that were identical twins,
Okay.
and I loved it. And I was 2 years old, and I wanted an identical twin too. I thought it's wonderful to look at somebody that is identical. So I would sit in front of the mirror trying to
Right.
persuade my identical twin to join me. And my parents would tell me, it's not an identical twin there, it's you. It's me. How come I'm here and I'm there? And I would ask so many questions about that. And then I remember by the age of 3, I was sitting with my father, and there was a square box there made of wood. And he turned on a button and it said, "This is the voice of Jerusalem." I said, "Voice of Jerusalem? I'm in Haifa. Jerusalem is so far away. So how come that the voice from Jerusalem is coming to me in Haifa?" My parents were going crazy with all these questions. So I knew from a very, very young age that I'll be a scientist. Then came high school, and in Israel, even now, but now it's not as strong as it was then. You practically had to declare a major, because
Okay.
the classes in high school were already divided to the ones that want humanities, the
Oh,
ones
that
that was
early. Okay.
low
Wow.
in economics, and the ones that want science and math. It was already, and sure enough, I wanted to go to science and math, but there were different tests to go to each of those. And I ended up going to high school as the only girl in my class.
Ah,
That was very interested phenomenon to grow on, because this is the age where you have your best girlfriends and all that. And I
yes.
had my best girlfriends happen to be boys, because I
Right.
didn't have girls in the class.
Here's your
And then,
environment.
yeah, it was a very different environment, but I think it made me feel more comfortable with
Okay.
boys and men than with the girls that were not
Yeah.
in my class. And then came the military. I did not volunteer, I was drafted. And suddenly I have in my barrack, we have to sleep together, one next to the other, 50 girls. This was the biggest shock
Biggest
that
change of your
I
life.
had
Yeah.
after coming from a world of old boys. I'm falling suddenly with 50 girls together, and the conversations, my God, were things I'd never heard in my life. It was like I moved to another world, and I was already, I had already the man I was going to marry. So I
Right.
remember
Right. Right.
the first vacation, I walked around and said goodbye to everybody, because if you are married, you are not drafted. And I
Right.
said, I'm going to get married. Goodbye, goodbye. I was 17 years old. I
Right.
finished school a year earlier. And then after the vacation, I showed up again, and everybody said to me, "What are you doing here?" I said I had a second thought, and I
Oh,
came back. But the shock was to move from a world that was only boys to be with 50
Yeah.
girls. And I remember, and if you don't want this sentence, you can take it out, but I remember when I lived in Switzerland and was at the ETH in Switzerland, everybody in February has to pick up a week to go skiing. The
Yeah.
schools, the universities, we used to call it a skiing seminar. You ski and have lectures and seminars
Yeah.
at the same time. But I remember my son went to a very nice resort, but the ETH, my lab, went to not the greatest resort. So there were rooms of sharing 10 people in a room.
Right.
Only the head of the department,
Got their own room.
Herr Professor, Dr. Solinger got a single room. So I went and I said, look, I was with 50 girls in a room, and since then I am sharing I have or a single room or I share only with the opposite sex.
All right.
So they gave me a single room, and the whole department was angry that only I and the head are having single rooms.
Well, you've had a very established career, it looks like. So, maybe that was just a sign of things to come, because you were already embodying that senior academic future you, but in at that point that you were at in your career.
Yeah, and then I went to the Technion, Israel Institute of Technology, after
Yeah.
my military. I was already married. I was already having a son, and I did my bachelor master in what was unusual to do with a child. It was a very unusual phenomenon. It was not so usual that women went to the Technion, Israel Institute of Technology, but
Yeah.
having a child was for sure unusual. But then I went to do my PhD at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel. It's considered one of the best 10 research institutes in the world.
Wow.
And my parents that lived in Haifa said, "Why are you moving to Rehovot? Here you can have help and all that." But I just wanted to do the PhD
Fantastic.
there. And when you finish a PhD there, you have to go for a postdoc abroad.
Yeah.
And so I wanted, my research was, and I will not bother your audience, so I hope they don't run away. My research was on secondary isotope effect.
Right.
So it was very theoretical, and I wanted to do my postdoc with a very famous person at Cornell by the name of Frank Long, because he was famous not just as a chemist, but he
Uh-huh.
was always on the scientific advisory committee to every president.
Oh,
He was
okay.
the first director of the Agency of Arms Control and Disarmament. Was very involved in peace and in human rights and in issues like that, in addition of being an
Yeah. You saw a
ex-chemist.
role model. You obviously knew what direction you wanted your career to shape. And why not try and get that from someone who's also really good in the technical area? You're actually going to learn all this other stuff as a young mentor, essentially.
Correct.
Mentee,
Correct. He
even
was a
being
great
mentored.
mentor.
Absolutely.
Correct. Correct.
Absolutely.
But I had a problem because he was selected to be the head of the National Science Foundation.
Oh, the
This
NSF.
means that he had to move to Washington and be in Washington, not at Cornell. It's a very important position.
Yes.
But the president of the US has to swear in the person that is selected to be the
Right.
head of the National Science Foundation. Frank Long sent me a long letter back that he would like very much for me to work with him, but he's very sorry. He just agreed to accept this position, and he will not be at Cornell. And he went to Washington, and Nixon said that he is not swearing him in because of his stand on ballistic missiles and disarmament. And
Oh,
this
right.
was the first time that politics interfered in the National Science Foundation. So all hell broke loose in the US, and Frank Long went back to Cornell. 3 days later, Nixon by himself called him and said, please come to Washington to be sworn in. And he answered to him, thank you, President, but my answer is no. And then he said yes to me. So
Oh,
saying no to Nixon and yes to me was a very great thing. And usually in a real scientific conference, I like to start by thanking Nixon. And
yeah.
anybody that knows my political view thinks, what is wrong with her?
I love that. I love that
For
origin
all
story.
my career, that was an unbelievable career. Thanks to Nixon for the fact
Yeah.
that he blocked Long, and Long had a character to say no, President.
So what
So
what what did so then working with your professor, what did those early research experiences teach you about science and its role beyond the
it
lab?
was, it was a fascinating experience because I said I'm not bothering people with the isotope effect, but I was doing the research, and every week I would go to Frank Long because he sat in another building, because in addition to all his activities, he started the program at Cornell of Science, Technology, and Society. So he
Yeah.
was in another building. And I remember once coming and we discuss, and there is in science something that is called entropy of activation. There is energy of activation to every
Mhm.
reaction and entropy.
Yeah.
So he's talking about the entropy, and the secretary opens the door and said, I have on the phone Jerry Wisner. Jerry Wisner was the president of MIT, but was
Oh,
the
right.
science advisor to Kennedy and the person that discovered radar during Second World War.
Oh, wow.
And then she said, and George Kisiakovsky, who was a professor at Harvard and was the science advisor to Eisenhower. So he picks up the phone, and they are talking about writing an article in the New York Times against developing ballistic missiles. And I'm so fascinating. I'm listening to every word. I'm learning new words that I never heard before.
Yeah.
Then he puts the phone down, and he looks at me and he said, it must be positive. And I said, what? He said, the entropy of activation. I long ago forgot about the entropy of activation listening to this conversation.
Oh, I see. He
He
wanted to get back to
continued
what you were
exactly
talking about,
where he stopped the scientific
but
conversation.
you wanted to know more about the content of the call because it was
Sure, and he
it,
continues. It's positive. What's positive? I don't want to know what's positive about the ballistic missiles. And he tells me the entropy of activation. So I had a very interesting
yeah.
experiences and met very, very interesting people through Frank Long. And this
And
probably directed me to work for human rights
yeah.
and for peace and do things to make the world a better
And did
place.
Frank give you that time in that sort of parallel interest that you had? So obviously you have to have do the
Yeah,
technical
I
and
traveled with him to different
okay,
places. Yeah, he
fantastic.
was a terrific mentor. You could not ask for a better mentor. And I don't know if you have young listeners,
Yes.
if anybody needs a good mentor to be successful in life. Mentors make all the difference in the world. And
Yes.
being by myself a mentor for so many years, I see the students I mentored. So
Yeah.
everybody should have a good mentor to be successful in life.
Absolutely. So let's
This
bring
is
it up
very
to
important.
let's find out then about what you went on to do beyond when you finished your PhD. You set up were you the founder of the Malta Conferences, or you took on a role there? It's an
No,
initiative.
I dreamed the Malta Conference. I am the founder of the Malta Conference, and I'm
Okay.
the president of the Malta Conference. I'll move to the Malta Conference, but after that, I would like to say a word about teaching science through art, music, dance, drama, rap, everything you want. By the way, I got from the Royal Society of Chemistry in England the
Yeah.
Nyholm Award in Education for developing these methods of teaching.
Oh,
So I would,
fantastic.
but they made me lecture from the north till the south, 2 weeks in horrible trains. And I had an entourage that came with me. And I remember the Royal Society organizer said, it's hard enough to organize it for one person. You have an entourage. I said, does your queen travel with an entourage? This is how I travel.
That's how you
So
travel.
when I
Yes.
was in China, I worked on human rights. So in China, in one place, they have the Goddess Peak, a place. So the Chinese, that was the head of the trip, took a picture of me and said, "This is the socialist queen with the Goddess Peak." So I said to them, I got already the title queen, and I need to travel with an entourage. So it was hell for them to organize the trip.
Listen, you don't get those medals and honors from institutions or societies without having to do some work. It's a nice thing to get, but you've got to give some lectures in return for it.
Oh,
So,
you cannot believe Exeter,
yeah, all corners of the
every
UK.
university till Scotland, the universities in Scotland. I saw England up and down.
So, what was it
Anyhow,
so tell us a bit about then the what you got the medal for and the teaching methods that you developed.
this is why I got from Clinton the presidential award too. Uh, After doing research on secondary isotope effect
Yep.
for many years, I believe that science education is a human right that belongs to all. And I
Okay.
started seeing slowly, two society being formed. One that advances in science and
Yep.
technology, and one that falls behind.
Yep.
And I said, we will have a society now that will for sure have two classes, divided not by royalty, but by knowledge of science and technology.
Okay. Okay.
So there was a university that was for art and communication students, open admission, visionary president, politically to the left, but a wonderful person. And he had a vision that everybody has a right to go to the university, even if the grades were low in high school.
Okay.
So he did it open admission. And because it was art and communication, these schools usually demanded a portfolio. And he
Right.
said, no, poor people cannot prepare a portfolio. They have to work through high school.
About time,
To
yeah.
make a long story short, it was open admission, very, very high percentage African American. And they were accredited as a liberal arts school. So he
Right.
had to add some science.
Right.
And there were a lot of people that taught there that were from the 60s, that demonstrated against Vietnam and all that, and science was bad, and this kind
Right.
of people. So he sent letters around that he's looking for a magic teacher that will be excellent teacher, excellent scientist, but involved in arms control and this, all that. And one of the people that got this letter was Frank Long at Cornell.
Ah.
And
Okay.
Frank Long replied, I have the ideal person for you.
Oh,
And
amazing.
he recommended me. But when I came to the place, I almost ran away from there because, when you are in formal places like Cornell, Northwestern, Etihad, Zurich, it's all formal. And
Yeah.
for my first, I have to get Malta, so I have to put my first interview. I got dressed up like you dress up for an interview. I come from the formal world, right?
Yeah.
And I go there, and I wait, and nobody comes. And I asked the secretary there, I have to meet the dean. Yes, the dean will come soon. And then I see a gorgeous looking, tall, heavy man, long white beard, eyebrows that came like that, long white hair, gorgeous looking walking, and following him was a very skinny guy with hair till his waist, with a goatee, very skinny, and he follows him. And I thought to myself, if I have to paint Moses, I would ask this guy with the white beard to
Oh, wow.
because he's Moses. But the other guy, I just came from Europe, from living in Switzerland and seeing the Last Supper, the paintings. And I said, oh my God, this guy just came out of the Last Supper. He looks exactly like Jesus there. So I said, where am I? A place where Moses and Jesus are walking here. I'm waiting, nobody even. And then after an hour waiting, a door opens, and a man with pink lenses on his glasses, embroidered shirt, a ring, silver ring, on every finger, and he opened the door and he said, can I help you? And I said, oh, I'm waiting for the dean. And he said, I'm the dean. I said, that was my reaction. And then I said to myself, I must have been misled. It's a cult. I have to run away from this place. How do I escape here? And by that stage, I had only about the Hare Krishna going to a retreat or the Baptist.
Yeah.
In the academic places I was, nobody went to a retreat. So
Yeah.
this dean with the pink lenses, purple embroidered shirt, and all the ring tells me, I apologize that I was late because we were all the faculty on a retreat. I said to myself, for sure.
That was the last straw.
Who goes to a retreat? So he starts talking to me and he said, you never sent us a CV. I said, I brought it, I give him, and all what I want is to go away. And he looks at it and we talk and he said, thank you very much, I'll be in touch with you. I get up, I take my CV, and he said, excuse me, please, I need your CV. I said, no, I'm not leaving my CV here. And I took it away. And I went, and a few days later, I get a call from him. And he said, you should come down again for an interview. More people want to interview you. Now, I live in Evanston, not in Chicago. It's next to Chicago. It's where Northwestern is. It's a
Yeah.
university, beautiful university town. And I have to go back to downtown Chicago. I said, no, thank you. I don't have time to go to Chicago. So he said, I'll call you back. And he calls me back and he said, okay, the group will come to Evanston. And I said to myself, this this country is determined to get me in.
You
So I
want you,
said,
yeah.
so we decide where to meet in Evanston. I want to fit them. So I had a Palestinian embroidered blue shirt. I put my Palestinian shirt. I tried to dress like them. And I come and all of them are with dark suits. And I looked the weird one. Anyhow, and then the president said to me, I give you a free hand and you do what you want.
Amazing.
There is nothing. Build a science institute that you feel. And it became so famous, this science institute, that I was swimming in money. Money was poured on me from
Wow.
every way. And we developed this program. And in order to show that the program is really working well with non-science majors that
Yeah.
love to take science, I chaired the Committee on Scientific Freedom and Human Rights for the American Chemical Society. So I persuaded the two members. One was the chair of chemistry at Princeton University, Professor Tom Spiro, and at Indiana University, big state school, Professor Shiner, to write together a proposal for non-science major, develop a class with my method, because in Princeton you could take as a requirement for science psychology, and we
Right.
wanted to move it to hard science. It became such a successful project that the National Science Foundation called it the flagship project of NSF. And in
Wow.
order to prove that my inner city minority students can go and be second to none in Princeton, every year my class flew to Princeton for a joint symposium.
Oh,
And
wow.
all the media was coming when we came, and they called it the meeting of two cultures, because it
Wow.
was two cultures. My students were the first time on a plane. But
Yeah.
you see, this president, his name was Mike Alexandrov, that was so good. He said, what? You take a class to Princeton? You go, when is the symposium? Monday. Monday, you go Sunday, and you go to Manhattan, and you take them to a matinee in Broadway, so they will
Yeah.
learn what is a Broadway. And then you
Yeah.
take them to a nice restaurant in Broadway, and then you can go and do your science. So they have a more round
Yeah.
experience.
Cultural.
And,
Yeah.
and it was a project that went for a very long time. I describe it in my book. There is
Yeah.
and I show examples. Oh, and I taught this way homeless kids, prisoners, and he did miracles.
So
And then I
tell us
have
about
what?
tell us tell us about your book then. Yeah. So your methods are documented in your Human Rights and Peace: A Personal
It's,
Odyssey.
there is a big chapter on the education. If there are teachers that are listening to you,
Yes.
with pictures that showed how students dance the depletion of the ozone layer, dance the chemical bond, and CNN did a program on this homeless kids that dance, and they explained, till I did the dance I knew nothing, but there I saw how my cousin pulls the oxygen away, and I said, this is how it works. And it's in the book, but it's on we have a YouTube with all that, like love story between sodium and chlorine that to form table salt that follow exactly Romeo and Juliet.
I
Exactly, they
see.
took the words, and it's so accurate scientifically. Or the Bondfather that follow Godfather. Don Mendeleev is helping there, and it explains. Oh
Right.
God!
I
And
see. So that moment of you thinking, oh my goodness, what is this cult? A liberal arts college that wants to diversify into science, but actually harbors all this creativity. By
right,
you being convinced to stay, you then develop this whole new pedagogical fusion of arts with
right.
science to come like a
Right.
methodology that helps people who might not be strong scientifically, or they learn better, let's say, or their learning is enhanced or augmented by using physical movement to link it to theory, or storytelling structures to learn about fundamental science.
Right. And the fact that I got together with Princeton and Indiana University told the students that we do, told the scientists that we do real science, because in the
Yes.
beginning, the scientists, oh my God, what is she
Yeah. What
doing?
is this?
Mickey
Yeah,
Mouse out of
exactly. I can
science?
imagine. I can imagine.
Yeah, but he did miracles with underprivileged, really miracle. And I'm looking now, and there is some weak academia that follows. I get who is citing my papers. And there are papers that describe all that from the 80s until now. Every
Wow.
day, people are citing it in what they are trying to do. But we did miracles, and I built such a successful science institute in an art school that people used to ask me, do you rent rooms from this place? They saw the Science Institute is independent, just renting room, because I got a lot of money to go into the Chicago public schools that are
Right.
left to be desired, and
Right.
run workshop for the teacher. And because I believe that it's not only the teachers that should know, I
Yeah.
ran workshops for parents so
Right.
they will see what they can help their students
Yes.
with science by using kitchen substances.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyhow, I can give, as a matter of fact, the three of us had a contract with Macmillan to write a book, From Ozone to Oil Spill Chemistry, the Environment Anew, because this was the title of the class. But we never had the time to do it by
Oh no.
trying to spread it. So at the end, I included it in my book, but not in detail as a book by itself, but it's a long chapter.
Oh
And
wow.
if teachers want, there is a website on that and a YouTube with all the
The
students'
resources.
projects.
Yeah.
And once I was told a Golden Conference is only 100 people from all over the world in a subject can attend. And this was science visualization, always in Oxford, in England. And
Yeah.
once it was in Mount Holyoke in the US, so that the organizers said to me, listen, you always bring us videos. Can you raise the money and bring the real homeless kids to show us how they learned through? So I raised the money, and suddenly, with this distinguished scientist, I had 20 of these kids in the
Oh.
conference, and they were showing them how they dance the conceptual science. And I have videos on that, and you hear the audience. That was lily white, and my students, that were all of them black, the audience jumps and screaming, bravo, bravo, bravo.
Yeah.
And the difference in the culture or in the color between them was a lesson too to both groups, but we don't have enough time to discuss all that
Yeah.
because there are other subjects and we want to get to the Middle East is burning, so we want to get to solution how to have a better Middle East. So if
Absolutely.
people are interested, my website is zafralerman.com, and all
Yeah.
this
We'll put a
are
link
in
in
the
the show
website,
notes.
so you
Definitely.
can see.
So
Okay.
what do you think? So just looking ahead to the future, then how do you think we get to that place of hope and human connection, and what role can science and engineering education play in achieving that?
Science can play a tremendous role because first, scientists in most of the countries, not in the US, I don't know how in the UK, have a very special status. They have a lot of respect. The government respects them. Remember, science is a subject that can prolong life, but science is a subject that can cut life very short. And we have, therefore, I tell scientists they have the obligation to work towards peace in the world, because we wouldn't have the weapon of mass destruction without the scientists. And they have really more influence on governments. There are very few subjects that are international. It's music, it's art, sport, and science.
That's really true.
But if you think governments can survive without musicians and artists, but they cannot survive without the scientists. So it's the scientists' responsibility to use their science for diplomacy. So first, science doesn't see religion, doesn't see border, doesn't see culture, doesn't see language. A chemist in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, here in the US, can write their results of research, all the equations and all that, to a chemist in Bethlehem on the West Bank.
Yeah.
Without any language, and they will understand exactly the chemistry of each other. Therefore, I think science diplomacy should succeed where other diplomacies have failed, because the people speak the same language. And this is why after September 11 in 2001, in the midst of the Intifada, the uprising of the Palestinians, where suicide bombs were in every corner, I chaired for 26 years the Committee on Scientific Freedom and Human Rights for the American Chemical Society, that is the largest one subject society, very influential.
Yeah.
So I had to persuade the board to start the Malta Conference. Today we are non-for-profit standalone, but the I'll call ACS, American Chemical Society, they were the ones that I came to their board and suggested it. But remember, it's after September 11, heights of the Second Intifada. I came and I said, I think that my committee should organize a conference where we will bring scientists from all the countries in the Middle East with no exception, all of them. Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, Egypt, Palestine, Saudi Arabia, all of them with no exception, for 5 days to a neutral place.
Yep.
All of them stay in the same hotel, because previously I learned that from a very smart Egyptian, Mahmoud Mahfouz, that was the health minister for Sadat. And he told me, in order to be successful in the Middle East, everybody has to be equal, not rich and poor, smart and stupid. So everybody equal there. Everybody stays in the same hotel with several Nobel laureates, and the Nobel laureates are in the same hotel with everybody else. No society difference in classes. Everybody equal. And I said, if I will bring several Nobel laureates, first it will help to advance the scientific level of all of them. Second, there are subjects that one country cannot solve alone. You know, the water aqueducts that go underwater, they don't know where your government, the British government, put lines on the map. They don't know that the British decided to do Transjordan because they did put a line there. So the water goes, and water is a big problem in the Middle East. It's arid land. So in order to solve the problem, we have to work together. The countries are very close to each other. You have pollution in one country and the other one cleans their air, one wind. The air doesn't stop. So
It's a good point.
all these issues must be worked together. And this
Interconnected.
what right. And this what and sure we introduced science and technology education at all levels, again to bring to equality all the countries. So the first time I brought it to the board of ACS, they looked at me and I could see on their eyes from where did she come, like I'm completely crazy. What? Middle East now, and there were a lot of arguments and all that, and at the end they approved it.
Wow.
And then we had the first conference on the island of Malta. And
Yep.
why the island of Malta? Because I thought an island is safer than a mainland. You cannot just drive there. In addition,
Yeah.
there were very few direct flights to Malta in that stage, maybe from London, Rome, and Frankfurt. So everybody had to spend a day in order to go to Malta. So I calculated that even for the terrorists, it wouldn't be worse to waste a whole day to go and kill a lot of Muslims and few
Yeah.
Jews. So this is why Malta was selected for the first conference that was in 2003. And I thought that I'm going to have one conference and so show the world that I could do what nobody else did. But guess what? As the week came to an end, the participants said, "Oh, you cannot stop now. We need a continuation."
Every year.
So there was Malta 2 and Malta 3, and now in the beginning of May, Malta 11 was supposed to take place in Baku, Azerbaijan,
Right.
but has to be moved now because you cannot go to Baku, Azerbaijan. They have a border with Iran. They got ballistic missiles at the airport. There is no flight, but there is no flight from all a lot of countries in the Middle East too. A lot of people. So we have to move it, and the participants are very, very disappointed because everybody looked forward because by now it's like family. If you see the end of the conference, people tears in their
Yeah.
eyes,
Yeah. Yeah.
hugging and kissing. You don't even know from what countries they are.
Yeah.
So this is the sad part. Now, what it takes to put a conference like that is practically walking hell. First,
Yeah.
for equality reasons, we must pay for everybody. Now that we are not part of ACS, standalone non-profit, it means we have to raise it.
Yeah.
Remember, there is billions and billions of dollars to build weapon of mass destruction, but for peace,
It's not there. Yeah. The
not
investment.
there. So I feel sometimes like a beggar going to people and asking from all
Yeah.
my friends, all my colleagues, all my neighbors, everybody. I think people that see me get scared already because they know I'll beg for money,
Yeah.
because we need to raise the money to have everybody paid for. And the Palestinians always tell me that they feel the best in the Malta conference because every other conference they hear, our poor Palestinian friends were not able to pay their share, so we needed to find resources.
Create an equal participating field.
This is what
Yeah.
they say. It's the only place we feel really equal.
Yeah.
Just a note that quite in the beginning of the Gaza war, when it became very bad, I managed to get our Gaza participant out to Egypt. But we have a problem because young families that have children, Egypt wants them to go somewhere else, so their children cannot go to school. I spent day and night with a lot of countries, and everybody supports the Palestinian, and nobody wanted to give me visa even for one family to come out so the kids
Right.
can go to school. And think about it. I'm an Israeli and I'm fighting with the world to let one family come so their kids can go to
Yeah.
school. It's insane. So now if you think the money is the main problem, no, the main problem is the visa. Because
Yeah.
nobody, no country wants all my countries that participate.
I see. I
So
see. So
in
you
my
can't find a
book,
location to bring it all together.
to the US, for example, I think 9 of my countries
That would
have
be
a ban
impossible.
even to enter the US.
Yeah.
The EU is not much better, the Schengen visa. They have less usually they give me hard time. It's Iran, it's Syria,
Yeah.
Iraq many times is a problem, but it's pulling teeth. But then let's talk before the war, even to bring people from Gaza to the conference. Gaza has 2 borders only,
Yeah.
with Israel and one with Egypt. One of Egypt is always closed, always. So it means they have to go through Israel. The rockets are flying for years, since I have the Malta Conference. So I always had to work months with the Israeli Foreign Ministry. That was very helpful to me. In the end, I would get a message and they would tell me, you have this window between midnight and 3 a.m. for them to cross the air is crossing. But now this is in the south. They cannot
Yeah.
fly from Israel, so they have to transfer to Jordan to fly for Amman. So a military car will wait for them, take them from the south to the north, to the Allenby crossing, so they can cross to Amman. But then I need a visa for Malta. I need a visa for them for Amman to cross,
Yeah.
and I need the Israelis to do all these procedures, taking them from
Just to
one
get
side
them
to
there.
the other.
Yeah.
And one day, the Jordanians said, no, no visa for people from Gaza. And
Yeah.
so I said, I already cleared everything with the Israelis. Security. I said, you have a better security than the Israelis? The Israelis cleared them to cross their country. But I'm friends with Prince Hassan bin Talal, King Hussein, a brother that's participated in several Malta
Right.
conferences, and he helps me in a
Okay.
lot. You know, you have to make connection
Yeah.
highest.
So high in order to get through that. Yeah. And
I could take all your podcasts and tell you just of getting a visa to Morocco. They promised me a visa for everybody, and at the end did not give me. At the end, always everybody gets visa, but it takes.
yeah.
I have
A
to
lot of
be a James Bond to
yeah.
do.
Well,
There
you
is sorry, I just want to finish this sentence. There is a chapter from Mission Impossible to Mission Possible, and it's just about the visa.
well, what I take from you is someone who is tenacious, a go-getter, very focused, and has a heart of gold, hoping to do good for the world and cares about those that you engage with and the communities that you build, and really use science as a way to build bridges and having shared common humanity. It's been an absolute privilege to spend this time with you. I really do hope that things settle and that there's a day when the Malta conferences can get back to how they were, without you having to make adjustments or changes. And you know that'll then be the world will be in a better place. It'll be
That's
evidence of
great.
us getting to a better place, or back to where we were even. And so yeah, I hopefully through promoting your book, being on this podcast, we'll put links in the show notes to the book. We've helped capture your story and your dedication to your work.
Thank you very much. And all the proceeds of the book goes towards the Malta Conference. I don't take a penny.
Fabulous.
And we don't have any paid employees. We are all volunteers,
Yes.
and every penny we raise goes towards the Middle East.
Fantastic.
So
Well,
anybody that buys the book help us to achieve peace.
fabulous. Well, that is such a great commitment to end on, a great note to end on. Thank you, Zafra. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful to talk to you. It was a great podcast. It was very pleasant.
Thank you. And just for listeners, one more time, if people want to find out more about your work or to get in touch, how should they do that?
My personal website is my name, zafralerman.com, but one word. My email is again, Zafra, my name, at zafralerman.com. My website is .com too, zafralerman.com. The Malta Conferences Foundation website, but my own website sends you there. But the website is Malta Conferences Foundation.org. And then in order to see a lot of the videos of using the arts to teach science, it's the lermaninstitute.org.
Fantastic. We'll put all those notes in the links as well. Thanks, Zafra. Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You have been listening to the Safe Leader podcast, uncovering the diversity story behind leading figures championing change to make our world a better place. If you have enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to the Safe Leader podcast on your podcast platform of choice and get notified when a new episode goes live. Did you know that we also offer a full transcript on each of our podcast episodes? Check out my website, McBride-Wright.com. Here, you can also explore the training, coaching, and keynote speaking services I offer. And whilst you're there, why not join the Safe Leader community by subscribing to the Safe Leader Insights mailing list? Thank you for listening, and please come back and join us on a future episode.